So three other parts that we need to consider: corium, anastomosis, and plexus. So corium is the skin, the living skin that produces all the different parts of the hoof. There are 5 distinct parts to the hoof. You have the periopal, you have the hoof wall, you have the white line, the sole, and the frog. Each of those parts is produced from a distinct area of corium. Corium is specialized skin. It's specialized periosteum, which is only found in the covering P3 and composes part of the foot. The corium is living tissue. The keratinized material that it produces is dead tissue. The dead tissue has no circulation, no blood vessels, no nerves within it, so no blood supply and no sensation. The corium, on the other hand, is very vascularized and has a lot of nerve endings, just the same as the lamina underneath your fingernail. So we can divide the corium up in and name it according to the area that it grows. We have the perioptic corium, which will be found up in this region, will produce the periopal that covers the upper region of the hoof wall. Then we have the coronary corium, which would lie just distal to it and forms the principal part of the coronary band and encircles the hoof from heel to heel. That produces the majority of the hoof wall. The hoof wall grows from the coronary corium downwards and forwards over P3. Then we have the laminar corium, which is a very specialized corium which covers P3 and is a distinct shape from all the other corium. I'll come back to it in a minute. Then we have the corium that produces the white line, and it is called the terminal papillae of the laminar corium. On the bottom surface of the horse's hoof, we have the sole corium, which produces the sole, and then we have the frog corium, which produces the frog. The laminar corium is distinct from all the others in that the principal function of the laminar corium is the attachment of the hoof to the bone. And that attachment is by those lamina, or fingers, which interdigitate, is the best way to describe it. So we have a large surface area attachment of hoof wall to bone by the lamina. So the laminar corium is principally about attachment, where the other areas of corium are principally about production. So again, we've got the perioptic corium, the coronary corium, which produces the bulk of the hoof wall. A small amount is produced by papillae on the terminal end of the laminar corium. Then we have the terminal papillae of the laminar corium down on the distal border, which produces the white line. The white line is produced only from this bottom edge of P3. So the white line is not generated from the coronary band region, it's only generated from here. And that's why the white line is so important to us, to indicate what the shape of P3 is. Since it's produced off the distal border of P3, that helps us determine what the shape of P3 is and what the shape of the hoof should be. So the terminal papillae, the laminar corium, produce the white line, and then we have the sole corium, which covers the principal part of the solar surface of P3, and then the frog corium in this back region. So that's the corium. Anastomosis is a connection of artery directly to vein, bypassing the capillary bed, which would feed blood to whatever the local tissue would be. Anastomosis has been implicated in diseases like laminitis and founder. So within the horse's hoof, there's a mechanism to allow blood to come down through the artery and then jump across into a vein and go back up the leg without entering any of the tissue of the foot. This happens probably in a healthy horse for heat regulation. Who hasn't put their hand on a horse's hoof on a really cold day and found the hoof to be really warm, and then later on found it to be really cold? It happens in us within our extremities, our fingers, our nose, our ears. You notice it on a cold day where the tissue will get very cold, and then all of a sudden you'll feel a tingling, and that's the anastomosis have closed, and now blood is being pumped out into the tissue again. So it's a natural phenomena, but within a disease condition, that can become dysregulated and cause death of tissue. So that's arteriovenous anastomosis. And then the last thing we're going to look at are plexus. And plexus are really just a very fine network of veins that create a large mass of blood to a specific area. They're the drainage system for the blood out of the tissue, but at the same time they serve a function of having a lot of fluid in an area that will be compressed. So we can divide the plexus up into the regions that they lie in. There's a coronary plexus, which essentially is the coronary band region. There's a solar plexus, which covers the bottom border of the bone. And then there's a laminar plexus, which essentially covers the laminar face of the bone. The laminar plexus is on the outside, on the abaxial face of the lateral cartilage, so it gets compressed between the cartilage and the more resistant hoof wall, and then of course blood is expelled up the leg. So that covers all the different parts of the circulatory system that we need to be familiar with. If you learn the arterial system, you have essentially learned the complete system, because the venous system, other than the plexus, is more or less a mirror image of the arterial system. Again, arteries supply blood, they're thick muscular walled tissue. Veins drain blood, they are thin collapsible tissue. Capillaries are the connections between the two. They are very small vessels that supply blood from the smaller arteries to the tissue, and then the veins drain it away from the tissue. Arteriovenous anastomosis is a connection of artery directly to vein, bypassing the capillary, and they open and close apparently at will. And then plexus is a mass of fine blood vessels that covers particular parts of the horse's foot, where compression will aid in pumping blood back up the leg. Arteries, muscular, veins, thin-walled with valves in them to prevent backflow of blood down the leg and into the foot. Corium is named by the region of hoof that it produces. We have the perioplic corium, we have the coronary corium, we have the laminar corium, we have the terminal papillae of the laminar corium, produces the white line, we have the sole corium, and then we have the frog corium.